This is my phantasm condition build. It's based mainly off of conditions, and then next on phantasms. I do build a lot into phantasms. They do a ton of the damage for me in this condition build. Some of the changes that you noticed in the latest content update was they said Phantasmal Haste is now working properly. Now if you look at the tooltip in Phantasmal Haste, it says that it increases the recharge rate of 20% by your phantasms. But then I noticed that there's this increase your illusions by 20%, or your recharge of illusions by 20%. So I was like, oh, well, does that stack? And so I spec'd into it without going into the Phantasmal Haste, just to see what that reduced to my Phantasm to. So as we saw before, it was a 20-second cooldown on my Phantasmal Berserker. Now it's a 16-second cooldown from that talent that I was spec'd into. So I go into Phantasmal Haste just to see if this will stack. And we have a Phantasmal Berserker with still a 16-second cooldown. I was like, oh my god, it doesn't stack, it's not working. Well, it does work. It's if you look up GW2 Wiki, it says that the recharge on this particular skill actually means that the recharge of the Phantasm's rate of attack, rather than the illusion skill here, that is 20%, which means a reduced cooldown on your illusions. So very confusing language, ANET. Thank you very much for that. It does work. Spec into that. It's very important for this build. Your Phantasm is going to do a ton of damage for you. They're going to build conditions. Not only that, but they're going to do damage based on the conditions that you have already on somebody. So that skill is absolutely amazing, even though the language is very confusing. Things get a bit tricky here when we're actually doing the survivability build after we get these main talents. You have the 20% increase to illusions. You want them to survive. Instead, I want the 50% illusion increase to health, because for SPvP, it's not too important to have that stun and the condition damage. For TPvP, you should definitely switch that out and probably go with the 20% health in that vitality tree. I then go into the 15% increase of illusion damage, just because it is a phantasm condition build. Your phantasms are going to do conditions, and they're also going to do damage based on the conditions that you have, so you want to give them some extra damage. I go into the Earth Rune because it's the most defensive rune you can have. That proc that gives you protection, 25%. It's going to save you when a thief opens up on you with pistol whip, or if you get opened up by a warrior with 100 blades. You'll still notice the damage, but it will save you from dying almost instantly, and you'll be able to stick around and fight, possibly kill them. I also go with the bleed when you switch to weapon. The reason I go with that is because I only have 14% crit. It's not a crit build, so it's a 7-second crit, and since this is a phantasm build, you're going to be switching weapons quite often. So that's a very long bleed, and you're going to be switching those weapons whenever you can. So that's probably your best bet to go with. You could go with the crit if you're building a little bit more critty. If you pay attention to the shatters that I do throughout this video, you're going to notice how much damage they do in this build. Condition builds are really good for shatters. The reason I don't do it too often is I have 3 stealths, and I have the survivability to last through that. Since my phantasms are doing a lot of my damage, I don't want to risk the 16-second cooldown, since somebody else can come along and just kill them. And I've read, people saying, don't worry about it, you can build them real fast, use your shatters when you can. Keep on using them. I disagree. I don't know what's around the corner. I don't want to have these things on cooldown in case I need them. It might be a 1 in 10 chance. It might be less than that, But if one of their buddies is coming around the corner and you're not ready for it, and you have these really long cooldowns, they're going to kill your phantasms immediately, and you're not going to be able to do anything to populate any damage on them. So that's why this is more of a condition phantasm build, not so much a shatter build, but I do like to use shatters when I feel comfortable using them. Shatters themselves, they do the 3-second confusion no matter what, because that's what we're built into on this build, and they do whatever bonus you have. So I use the distortion a lot. I really like the daze, but you know, keeping them up does a ton of damage for you, and you will see that you have the survivability to last a 2v1 for quite a long time. In PvP, if your team is communicating to you that you are by yourself and that they have X many and this other side has Y many, then you know you're against somebody, use your shatters, because you know you're going to be able to take them down and you're going to be able to replenish them and not worry about the cooldowns. But for SPvP, where nobody's communicating and you have 8 people on each team, then it's probably safer for you to actually just go ahead and keep them up. But here we have a thief that you see can do a ton of damage to you. But as long as you're able to survive his hits, Earth Rune plus the 3% damage reduction, you're hardly going to notice a lot. As you noticed, the confusions killed him on that. That was all him. He killed himself. He just spammed abilities. Things I like to use confusions on are thieves and rangers, especially if they're a ranger with a fast crit build, like my ranger build that you'll see in my other videos. If they're not noticing their confusions, if they're not paying attention to those stacks, then they'll easily kill themselves because they have to spam abilities. And auto attacks proc your confusion damage. So if it's a fast class that has an auto attack that's doing something X amount per second, then you're going to be doing that much damage per second and not even have to do any damage. You just have to sit there and watch them kill themselves. As you can see here, I started this fight off with a 2v1, and I think I went about 2 minutes by myself before my friends came around. But it's great for PvP still. You do not need to spec into that toughness as long as you're making up for it in something else. It's great for point control. It's great for just kind of distracting a bunch of people. You can get a 2v1 on something that's not a point, so that way your team can get points while they're distracted. And it's great for just going around and trying to force 1v1s. So you can stealth around, find somebody, sneak up behind them, and if you get that 1v1, you're going to kill them. If you get the 2v1, you're going to be able to stay alive until you can call your buddies over to grab you. Anyway, that's the new build, guys. At least my new build. Thanks for watching.